Hey Chiefs Nation, I'm Dustin Davis, and today we're breaking down the latest news from Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs front office faces decisions that could alter the team's trajectory before the deadline arrives. What began as a season of calculated roster construction now carries undercurrents of uncertainty. Veteran additions haven't materialized as anticipated. Injuries have thinned critical positions, and younger players are forcing their way into conversations that seemed settled months ago. The organization that prides itself on strategic foresight is navigating a moment where immediate needs and future planning intersect uncomfortably. How Kansas City responds in the coming days will reveal whether this is routine roster management or something more consequential. The answers won't arrive with fanfare, but the implications will echo well beyond this season. Let's check out all the details of the last few hours. First, friends, can I ask for a small favor? If you're liking what we do, click the like button to show your support. It truly means a lot. Thanks again. Kansas City's decision to bring in Kristian Fulton during the offseason appeared calculated, a move designed to strengthen the secondary while simultaneously creating flexibility against anticipated roster turnover. Half a year into that plan, the situation looks far less certain. The veteran signed to stabilize the position now finds himself at the center of trade speculation as the organization juggles injury complications, emerging talent, and pressing deficiencies in other areas. Recent adjustments to the depth chart and an unexpected roster promotion point toward something beyond standard rotation tweaks. When examined together, these maneuvers indicate Kansas City may be setting up a cornerback move, and Fulton's resume and salary make him a logical candidate in that scenario. Kansas City secured Fulton on a 2-year agreement worth $20 million after he logged 15 starts with the Los Angeles Chargers during the prior campaign. The signing served dual purposes, providing reliable coverage on the perimeter while the organization navigated expected secondary departures. From a tactical standpoint, Fulton was meant to supply consistent boundary presence in Steve Spagnuolo's defensive structure, while allowing others to function in their optimal roles. This arrangement would permit Trent McDuffie to return to his natural slot position, exploiting his strengths in that alignment, rather than being forced outside due to depth problems or performance inconsistencies among teammates. Why trade rumors surrounding Fulton have gained traction? No official word has emerged, so observers are interpreting visible patterns rather than responding to confirmed reports. Nevertheless, Fulton's initial months in Kansas City have been characterized more by limited availability and reduced playing time than by meaningful on-field contributions. Fulton remained on the physically unable to perform list throughout much of training camp, restricting his practice time and allowing teammates to advance ahead of him in the rotation. An ankle problem suffered during the Week 2 matchup against Philly further delayed his assimilation. He appeared on injury reports with limited or questionable tags in Weeks 4 and 5, though he participated fully in Week 6 practice leading up to the Detroit game. Even after returning to full health, Fulton has been inactive the past 2 contests, despite being cleared to play. That decision becomes more comprehensible when considering Noel Williams, the 3rd-round selection in the 2025 draft, has shown tangible improvement, diminishing the immediate necessity for Fulton snaps. Still, Fulton's track record, veteran standing, and contract value create an unusual situation. Keeping such an asset inactive on game days rather than utilizing or trading him appears inefficient. Kansas City's recent activation of cornerback Kevin Knowles to the 53-man roster introduces another intriguing element. Knowles earned the promotion following a strong training camp and preseason during which coaches consistently highlighted his special teams awareness and dependability. Significantly, Knowles assumed the roster position that opened when rookie defensive tackle Omar Norman-Lott sustained a torn ACL and was transferred to injured reserve after the Week 7 defeat against Las Vegas. Despite already being thin along the defensive interior, the front office chose to elevate a defense back rather than promote one of the 3 defensive tackles available on the practice squad, which is an unusual allocation given the need up front. This choice suggests advanced preparation. General Manager Brett Veach had reportedly been investigating defensive line options even before Norman-Lott's injury, signaling pre-existing urgency along the interior. By bringing Knowles onto the active roster now, Kansas City has positioned a cornerback ready to fill a spot immediately should another back be traded or released. When these elements converge, the pup absence, intermittent injury setbacks, healthy scratches, the advancement of younger alternatives, and the Knowles promotion, they suggest the organization may be preparing to deal from cornerback in order to address a more pressing shortage elsewhere. Fulton has existed on the margins for weeks now. Whether it's Fulton who ultimately moves, or perhaps Joshua Williams, depending on contractual considerations, or another corner whose profile fits market demand, the pattern indicates a team ready to reconfigure personnel for both immediate optimization and long-term roster flexibility.
Shifting our attention to the offensive side, a blockbuster scenario has emerged involving a talented back who could thrive in Kansas City's system. Breece Hall has functioned as New York's featured back throughout this season, though his performance has fluctuated considerably. In a hypothetical scenario that relocates him to Kansas City, both statistical evidence and situational context point toward a significant elevation in his real game opportunities and fantasy projection. Inserting Hall into Andy Reid's offensive framework, operating alongside Patrick Mahomes in one of the league's premier scoring environments, would almost certainly revolutionize his usage profile and weekly ceiling, fundamentally altering how fantasy decision-makers should evaluate his starting viability. Across 7 contests, Breece Hall has dominated New York's backfield touches, appearing on approximately 60% of offensive plays, 271 snaps, compared to Isaiah Davis, 125 snaps, 27%, Braylon Allen, 58 snaps, 13%, and Kenny Nwangwu, 1 snap. His fantasy production has varied sharply. 4 weeks have yielded fewer than 10 fantasy points, while 3 others have delivered 16.1 or more. His strongest performance arrived in Week 5 when he accumulated 17.5 fantasy points by rushing 14 times for 113 yards and catching 4 passes for an additional 42 yards. His season totals position him near RB19 in fantasy rankings, averaging approximately 11.2 points per contest, with 99 rushing attempts for 448 yards and 0 rushing touchdowns, plus 19 receptions for 164 yards on 27 targets. These figures describe a contributor who produces but lacks consistency, someone whose environment hasn't reliably maximized his scoring potential. Should Kansas City acquire Hall, the case is straightforward. A more efficient, higher-scoring offensive system would multiply his opportunities, target volume, and touchdown probability. The Jets rank considerably lower in scoring output, around 18.4 points per game, while the Chiefs operate among the league's top offenses, averaging closer to the mid-20s. That scoring gap translates directly into more possessions, more red zone touches, and substantially greater fantasy upside for a complete back like Hall. The proposed exchange: Kansas City obtains RB Breece Hall, New York receives a 2026 fourth-round selection. The draft compensation reflects Hall's contractual status, age profile, and potential, while acknowledging Kansas City's willingness to acquire a reliable back for a championship pursuit. In Kansas City, Hall would presumably transition into the primary back role immediately. Presently, the Chiefs distribute backfield work among Isaiah Pacheco, roughly 52% of snaps, Kareem Hunt, 32% of snaps, and Brashard Smith, 16%. Hall would be projected to claim a majority portion, forecasted at or exceeding 60% of snaps once integrated, leaving the remaining touches to Pacheco and Hunt, while potentially relegating Smith further down the rotation. Given Kansas City's superior efficiency metrics and scoring frequency, Hall's touchdown access would likely increase substantially, and his weekly fantasy ceiling would rise accordingly. For fantasy participants, a Hall relocation to the Chiefs would shift his classification from an inconsistent RB2 or low-end RB1 to a dependable weekly starter in most league formats, featuring both a significantly higher floor and ceiling. A Breece Hall to Chiefs transaction makes practical sense for both organizations in this hypothetical framework. The Jets acquire draft assets and create developmental opportunities for younger backs to gain experience, while the Chiefs obtain a 3-down runner who can immediately enhance their rushing attack and red zone efficiency as they pursue another championship. For fantasy stakeholders, the move would materially elevate Hall's valuation, transforming him into a weekly starter across most competitive formats.
On the defensive front, a veteran name has surfaced as a potential low-cost answer to shore up the interior and bring immediate stability up front. Through 7 games, Kansas City has recorded 15 sacks, tied for 14th, and occupies a middle position in run defense, 15th in rushing yards surrendered, and 22nd in yards per carry allowed. The unit hasn't deteriorated, but neither has it dominated. Incremental improvements up front could determine outcomes in tight contests. A veteran defensive tackle could enhance both pass rush rotation and early down physicality. One practical candidate is Shelby Harris of the Cleveland Browns, a player whose background and contractual situation position him as a logical deadline target. Harris possesses familiarity with the AFC West geography. His most significant tenure came during his Denver run from 2017 to 2021, and he began his career with the Raiders in 2014 to 2015. Now completing his third season as a Brown, the 34-year-old is scheduled to reach free agency next offseason, which enhances his trade market viability. From a financial perspective, Harris represents an economical acquisition. SpotTrack indicates his base salary this season at roughly $2 million, creating an affordable short-term addition for a team pursuing playoff depth. The Chiefs typically avoid signing older depth pieces mid-season under general manager Brett Veach's operational model, but they have created exceptions for proven contributors. Harris isn't a consistent edge disruptor. Pro Football Focus credits him with approximately 6 pressures and 4 hurries this year. However, his run defense rating, a solid 70.5 by PFF, emphasizes his value as a gap occupier. He's accumulated nearly equivalent snaps defending the run, 86, and rushing the passer, 91, which demonstrates his dual-role functionality in defensive fronts. More than generating highlight plays, Harris delivers consistent fundamentals, absorbing blocks, maintaining leverage, and creating tackle opportunities, frequently positioning teammates to complete plays. That type of reliable physicality can elevate the competitive baseline on a defensive line that has displayed week-to-week inconsistency. The Chiefs have experienced fluctuating defensive efficiency. Interior disruptions contributed to multiple defeats, and the recent Omar Norman-Lott ACL injury further depleted Kansas City's depth along the interior. While pass rush remains a priority, adding a dependable run stuffer can provide the team more late-game control and limit opponents' ability to drain clock with sustained ground attacks. For Cleveland, trading a pending free agent like Harris for draft capital aligns with a youth-oriented rebuild. The Browns would likely prefer converting a veteran bench piece into future assets. A day 3 selection or comparable compensation would be reasonable, while Harris receives an opportunity to contribute to a contender down the stretch. A low-cost, short-term trade for Shelby Harris addresses multiple considerations. It resolves an immediate interior need for Kansas City without significant financial burden and provides a logical return for the Browns as they prioritize draft resources and roster youth. Turning to the passing game, whispers are growing louder about an elite wideout who could transform the Chiefs' vertical attack if the price is right. As Kansas City operates within a solid but not spectacular offensive rhythm, the possibility of adding an elite route runner has generated speculation. With the Saints reportedly willing to move veterans amid a disappointing season start, Olave's name has emerged as an intriguing option for clubs pursuing immediate wide receiver help. Reports connect widespread interest around the league to a potential New Orleans restructuring. For an organization like Kansas City, one that prioritizes explosive receiving threats, Olave would represent both a stylistic match and a dangerous complement to the existing receiver group. New Orleans' 1-7 start under first-year coach Kellen Moore has generated trade speculation. League sources informed NewOrleans.fm that teams are interested in some of the Saints' veteran players and anticipate the market will clarify who becomes available. That environment fuels speculation that Olave might be shopped if the Saints choose to pivot. Analysts such as Blake Silverman at Sports Illustrated have included Olave among players likely to attract interest and identify the Chiefs as one possible destination. The upcoming reintegration of Rashee Rice following his suspension and the presence of Xavier Worthy complicate roster calculations, but adding Olave would still materially upgrade the top-tier receiving options. Olave's 5th-year option maintains him under team control through 2026 at an approximate $15.5 million valuation. A former number 11 overall selection, Olave delivered consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to launch his career, proving reliable despite inconsistent quarterback play. Following an injury-shortened 2024, he's begun 2025 with modest production, 26 catches, 185 yards, 1 STD, through 4 games, but remains a legitimate downfield threat.
At 6 foot and 187 pounds with sub 4.40 speed, a reported 4.39 at the combine, Olave aligns with Andy Reid's requirement for vertical stretch and multi-alignment versatility. His comfort both outside and in the slot fits Reid's 3x1 and 4-wide principles that challenge safety rotation and coverage assignments. If New Orleans continues declining, the market will establish Olave's price. Reports suggest it would probably require a first or second round pick to acquire him. The Chiefs would need to evaluate the cost against roster balance. A high-end receiver acquisition would transform scheming possibilities but arrive at a substantial draft cost. Ultimately, Olave represents a high-upside, stylistic addition that could jumpstart Kansas City's vertical threat. Whether the Chiefs are prepared to surrender premium capital remains the central question as the trade deadline approaches. Should the Chiefs go all in and surrender a first or second round pick for Chris Olave? Would he be the missing piece that elevates his offense to unstoppable status? Or is the draft capital too valuable to part with for a receiver when Rashee Rice is returning soon? Do you think Olave's skill set is worth the premium price? Or would Kansas City be better off developing Xavier Worthy and keeping their picks? Let us know in the comments whether you'd pull off this blockbuster deal or pass on it. Before you leave, drop a like and subscribe. Be part of our fan base and let's make Chiefs even stronger. Until the next video.